Kickstart the discussion, we would like to thank our cloud communication partner, Root Mobile, session partner, IAB Tech Lab in partnership with PubMatic, gold partner, LogicServe Digital, session partner, Agre, and knowledge partner, Kantar. Without any further delay, it's my pleasure to introduce you to our esteemed speakers, Mr. Aditya Save, co-founder, Agilio Labs, and Monappa L, head of marketing from Amazon Pay. Welcome, sir. Over to you, Mr. Aditya.
Thank you so much, Ayushi. Welcome, everyone. Thank you, Monapa, for doing this with us today. Monapa, you've been in this industry for almost 2 decades, right? So, financial services and payments put together. So, maybe the first thing we should do is we should try and get a sense of what's a picture in Monapa's head of, let's say, the last 5 years, right? Last 5 years in payments in India. Even when I frame those words, I can think of like 1,000 things that come to mind. So, how would you summarize the last 5 years?
Thanks for this, Aditya. Thanks, IMI. Honored to be. I think the last 5 years, whatever each year in the last 5 years has had as many changes and shifts in paradigm shifts as has probably happened in the prior 2 decades, right? And what comes to mind, over the last 5 years is, I would say, three tectonic shifts, right? Or influences. The first, of course, was demonetization, and how that created a stimulus for for both customers and merchants, right, to move from cash to even consider the digital payments, right? And at that time, of course, the most prevalent form of digital payments was the wallet, right? And despite till then, when we went to customers and said, okay, would you want the convenience of using a wallet? Customers always said, why would I put money in advance and let it sit idle there for a purchase that is probably going to happen later? But so that there was a lot of friction there for adoption. But demonetization just made it a compulsion, more or less, to rapidly adopt these digital payment means, right? And even these underlying frictionful experiences were ignored because it was a compulsion. So that was more on the one-sided network of customers, having to move to digital payments. The second big input has been in the last 18 months with the pandemic, right? And we've pretty much had our own. I think the biggest marketing input for digital payments has been the ringtone, right? That when you call and it says 6 foot ki duri, right? And at 6 foot ki duri, there is no way of making a cash transaction. It has to be contactless. It has to be electronic, right? So that has driven a stimulus for the two-sided network for merchants also, or sellers and service providers to also adopt digital payments, right? From across all streams of society, right? From the blue collar service folks right down to your kirana stores, all across. And in between these two events which have happened over the last 5 years, the adoption of UPI and the spread of UPI and the network effect, right, of creating a network of UPI handles has what has helped as ride or rather catapult adoption from one wave to the other, right? So now automatically word of mouth advertising from the network itself is now driving adoption, right, significantly month on month to where we are today, where UPI volumes at 3 billion or so far exceed any other payment instrument. So these, I would say, are the three main influences that have happened over the last 5 years, which have transformed digital payments in a manner unlike anything that has happened in the last prior 15 years.
Okay, when you were talking about each of these, I was just running my mind through in how many markets around the world would you be able to get such massive tectonic shifts in the space of a couple of years. And the only common one perhaps is the pandemic, but even that would probably have very different repercussions in markets where the infra is better developed, the payment processing system is far better developed. Regulatory perhaps is a little bit more advanced, right? So I just want to pick your mind on something else. You mentioned 6 foot ki duri, right? So 6 foot ki duri is not just for consumers with vendors; it's also for you with your team, which means all of you guys have been working, remotely, right? So what are some of the challenges that you and your team have faced? While the expectation of the market is that this is a time for digital payments to gallop, and you guys can't even like sit together and brainstorm, for example. So can you take us through some of those challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think at this point in time, the opportunity for digital payments, right? Once the first lockdown and all that happened, right, was tremendous, and that was when with first we most of us were working from home, and a lot of and then over the next couple of weeks, as it became evident that this is going to stick around longer, a lot of the younger folks who were staying alone as paying in paying guests and so on just moved to other cities altogether. So pretty much we were now connected across maybe 20, 30 cities across India, right? So the challenges were one, that this was a time when actually the opportunity itself was 2x, 3x higher. So even if you're working, in physical proximity, it just meant that every day, every week was like a sale event or like a customer event. So the intensity of activity actually catapulted much higher. Like suddenly we had to move from not just enabling payments, but during the first during phases of the pandemic, to open up donations, payments for donations, right, into the PM Cares Fund, into all the other bodies that were accessing funds to send out raw material, health materials, cylinders, and kits. So that's from a sheer activity perspective. And then, of course, interpersonally, it meant that remote meetings, you just had to trust each other, right? Work on a lot of trust, because at times, even with patchy connectivity, folks weren't even able to come on video, right? So you don't even know if how the person across is perceiving the message. Are they there? Being very empathetic to personal challenges at various points in time, you had all of us having some family member, person who we know very close, affected by the pandemic, and that's when you need personal time off to help at home, or to help with medical aid, and in all of that, it just actually it helped us bond closer as a team, because suddenly we were all in this together, and we were very empathetic about it, and we could empathize. And suddenly working from home, and now when we're sort of looking at coming back to work, we aren't really too fussed about when people are ready or want to come back to work, because we've pretty much pulled through several peaks and challenges through this working remotely. So that's definitely been a revelation. But yes, on the other side, I think the boundary between work-life balance, the boundaries of work and leisure have just blurred, and we've all had our cases of having to to just take a step back and take some time off, because sometimes just the physical act of not commuting to and fro from work prevents you from switching off, and you're always sort of switched on, and you're always in front of screens. And so it's been a challenging time, but it's definitely been a very fulfilling time as well, because the opportunity I had was just so big to not let go.
And how do you contextualize the opportunity that's in front of you? So as a marketing team, what's the real opportunity for you guys right now? How do you articulate that?
Right. So earlier, it was about prior to the pandemic, it was a lot about driving category awareness, right, as to why digital payments, right, a lot of that, it's basically, what are you? The brand that you're fighting against is the note, right, the cash, right, and getting getting customers to move from cash to digital. Then, once the pandemic happened, it was then a lot of it was saying that customers are open to it, because there's no other way. But then it was how and driving preference in terms of which instrument to use. Is it UPI versus net banking versus debit cards or credit cards, and one brand versus the other. and more importantly, looking at it from a relationship, from the relationship value that the customer gets versus just for that transaction, right? Because till then the category was largely being driven with incentives, with offers and cashbacks to just get customers to sign up and then to keep coming back, and customer loyalty was won and lost a transaction at a time, right, by virtue of this, right? But then once it sort of became imperative that this is reality, right, you have to be in this space, then you had to think of reasons beyond that, because the customer is here, the customer is going to choose digital payments, but not necessarily just for the next incentive, right? But also along the pillars of trust, security, convenience, selection, right, ubiquity, where all are your payments applicable, and that we have to shift the narrative from just at a transaction level to an entire relationship level, and offer the overall portfolio of services that we had to cater to specific customer pain points that they had basis where they were in this overall life cycle of cash to digital.
So you're making it sound really easy, Munappa, frankly. I'm sure it's not as easy as that. Given the sheer volume of customers who come to the Amazon platform itself, the Amazon e-commerce platform, the shopping platform itself, and the number of Amazon Pay customers today, I'm sure it's not as easy to hold, customer relationships and ensure that each customer's journey is unique, satisfying, like I said, frictionless today, versus maybe what it was some time ago. So, what are some of the marketing frameworks that you use, and what are some of the tech tools that you use to get this unified view of your customer? Is there some stuff that you can share on that one?
Sure. So we broadly look at customers across three segments, right? So first is what we call as the cash habituated customers, right? So these are customers who continue largely, other than such extraneous events of a lack of supply, as in the case of demonetization, or other constraint, as in the case of the pandemic, prefer to transact in cash because of either inadequate understanding of digital payments, or some misunderstandings that they have, right, about the security of digital payments. So today, roughly across any e-commerce platform out there, roughly 2 out of 5 customers, 2 to 3 out of 5 customers still transact in cash, and it's largely how they sort of get into the e-commerce flywheel, right? They most of the new customers come in with cash. So there, what we had as a tech or a product enablement is what we offer as cash load into balance, cash load at doorstep. So when the customer places an e-commerce order, a shopping order, while they choose cash on delivery, at doorstep, when the delivery agent comes to deliver the item, the customer has the choice of loading extra cash. So let's say the item will cost 500 rupees. The customer has the option of giving a 1,000 rupee note to the delivery agency. 500 is towards this purchase, and 500 loaded into my balance, right? And then it gets loaded into the wallet that the customer can then, the Amazon pay balance that the customer can then use to pay, to top up their mobile recharge, to pay the DTH bill, to pay the utility bills, and thereby get into the digital ecosystem in a fairly frictionless and convenient manner, with overall, the assurance that Amazon is behind this in every step of the way. It's happening in front of them. It's seamless as part of their overall transaction, and thereby they're sort of literally handheld into the digital ecosystem. So that's the first set of customers, right? The cash habituated customers. Then there is the next set of customers who are digitally enabled, but today, continue to face, frictions in online payments. Today, depending on which website it is, anywhere between 3 to 4 out of 5 customers, 1 to 2 out of 5 customers faces a payment failure when they're doing an online payment, right? For one or the other reason, either no internet connectivity, or incorrect passwords, and so on. And that's a frictionful payment experience, right? So for these set of customers, we offer them convenience of one-click payments and pretty much 100% payment success rate by allowing them to participate in this through balance, right? By loading into Amazon Pay balance and then going ahead with a single click, because this entire transaction is then done in a closed ecosystem that mitigates any risk due to other low bandwidth or hops between the banks and so on. So this is how the convenience, from a marketing perspective, what we promote is convenience, right? The single click convenience and 100% success rate for this set of customers, right? And then there's the next set of customers who are digitally enabled, but they don't have access to credit, right? So today, roughly, if you look at it, depending on which source you ask, there are between 100 to 150 million customers participating in e-commerce, but not more than 30 million customers have access to credit. So for the balance 120 odd million, they definitely want to participate more with digital payments, but they need a means to enable them to defer payments, to plan their payments, so that they can participate in the digital ecosystem more deeply,
Actively, yeah.
actively. And for them, for these set of customers, is what we offer as rewards in the form of extended credit lines, basis their overall performance, basis an overall life cycle view perspective that we have, and the one customer view that we have of these customers, to extend credit, which is either in the form of, and as simple as what we have offline as the khata system, where they buy through the month and they just pay at once at the end of the month in a single payment, or they can choose to split it across EMIs, over the next few months. So these are the three segments of customers, and how we sort of use our product as well as marketing inputs to get them up the cash to the digital payment, life cycle.
Okay. So, folks who are listening in, I just this one thing that Monapa mentioned. I think I could pick up at least 5 or 6 different areas that I can talk to him for. So most probably, Monapa, you and I are going to extend this conversation beyond this session. But within the time that we have for this session, I think there are a couple of questions as well, and I want to talk to you about. I know because this is something that is a pet peeve for you. The noise around the lending category is not very positive, right? Is not very holistic. It is to do more with transactionality, with discounting, with couponing, with very momentary rewards, if I can call it that, right? So there isn't an incentive for either the marketer or for the customer to build a slightly longer term bridge, right? So what are some of the pet peeves that you have for this industry as of today?
Yeah, I think the pet peeves for this industry is also, is endemic to payments in general, right? Where you look at, gaining the customer, acquiring the customer for that transaction, for that, that order, for that single sign up, versus looking at the lifetime or the relationship perspective with the customer.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and when you have only that lens, then pretty much the conversation that you're having with the customer is at a very superficial level, very tactical, very here and now, and very give and take here itself, right? And eventually it devolves down to some form of immediate incentive, be it through a cashback or some form of coupon reward and so on, without engaging the customer in a conversation that, one, makes them first of all more conscious of the ramifications of participating in credit, right, in a credit relationship, and two, of what is it that of how they can use it as a means to empower and enhance their lifestyle over a period of time, like sort of build a good credit history that enables them to get bigger credit lines, more rewarding credit products, and thereby enhance their their lifestyles over time. So I think that's been one of my pet peeves, because it is sort of like a marketing lens that you take for a here and now challenge, irrespective of if it's on at one end of the spectrum on enabling credit, or at the other end of getting customers to sign up for, let's say, as something as simple as a UPI handle.
Yeah. So, you were talking earlier about segmentation, right? The three segments of customers and the three propositions that you have for these three customers. I just want to club a couple of questions together. And one is from, Rajan's asking about, how can you increase security for transactions and how can you increase customer awareness? I want to append a question to that, which is around how does Amazon Pay manage to do or think about doing customer education? Because you're a known brand, right? So security is almost inbuilt into your brand ethos, right? So consumers will find it easier or